Today, we're going to be talking about Google Maps for both Apple iOS and for Android. Um, with all the sessions from this point forward, and I believe the last session too, we're going to be doing a joint class. So again, if you have Android or Apple iOS, this will be relevant to both of you. Now, the icon that you're going to be looking for to download Google Maps is going to be, I believe this is their updated icon. They used to look a little bit different before, but now when you're searching for Google Maps, you're searching for the little multicolored peg here. Just type in Google Maps on either the Play Store or the Apple iStore, or sorry, App Store, and it'll be the first one to pop up. It's a very popular app, so it should be on the top of your list there. Um, if you don't already have it installed, I will ask you to do that now because it'll make it easier to follow along if you have it on your phone or tablet. So I'll just give everybody a couple seconds to do that. Actually, I should probably ask, who doesn't have it installed already? If I hear silence, then I know that everybody probably has it. Okay, I hear silence. That's a good sign. It means nobody's getting lost. So now what I'll get you guys to do is just open up Google Maps. So when you first open up Google Maps there, this screen may or may not actually pop up, but what it's showing you on the screen here is asking you if you want to set up a service called Location History. Location History is where Google will track where you are to essentially make a map of the different places that you go on different days there. This can be good because if you forget where you've traveled one day and you want to review it, you can go back into your location history and actually see where you've been. I'll talk more about this in a little while, but if you do see this particular screen pop up when you first start up the app, don't worry about it. You can either turn it on or leave it the way it is, leave it default. And so what you're going to see on here is a whole bunch of different things here. And starting with the top, you're going to see the search bar. This is where you can actually put in addresses for the different places that you want to find. So this is really useful because here you can search for all sorts of different things. You can search for the name of a business. You can search for the type of a business. So if you were interested in going to a restaurant, you can actually type in restaurants and it'll pull up different restaurants in the area. If you were looking for a specific restaurant, you could type that in there as well. Just below it is also like quick links. So if you've programmed in your home, you can click home. Again, takeout is similar to restaurants, delivery, same sort of thing, gas stations. You can scroll to the right and there'll be other things on there as well, like grocery stores. So the different categories. Um, Down near the bottom, you'll be able to see your location. So if you don't know where on the map you are, you can actually click this little arrow button. And as long as you've enabled location sharing on Google Maps, it will put a little blue dot on the map to where you are. I believe this particular one is what's shown on iOS, and this icon is what's shown on Android. So if you see either one of those, depending on the phone that you have there, they do the same thing. Below that is the direction button there. So if you want to get directions from where you are to a particular destination, you can click on it here. And this will be a fast link to get to the direction spot. Um, Below that are the other features on the main screen. So you have Explore, which is essentially just the main screen. Commute, so if you have your work plugged in, you can actually show the directions from where you are to your work or to your home. Saved is where you can actually plug in different icons for different places that you go to regularly. So when I say saved, you can see on here, there's a whole bunch of these little green flags. So when the person was taking the photo of their Google Maps, they had about 5 or 6 different places saved. So you can actually go into the save spot there to pull up a list of those places. Contribute at the bottom is where Google Maps will actually let you add things to different locations or to make changes. So for instance, if you've taken a picture of a restaurant and you want to let other people see that picture, so if they search for that restaurant on Google Maps, you can actually add that picture to that restaurant under the contribute button there. And then updates is just a spot where Google Maps will post relevant updates about changes to the city around you. I don't usually go into this too much there because Google Maps is also updated quite regularly. So when you search for it, as long as you're connected online, the information should be the most recent. Now, something else I'll point out here is near the top is this little icon that looks a bit like a diamond with another half diamond underneath it. This is actually the map details icon. And from there, you can change the way your map looks. So typically when you first start up, it'll show as default. And default is just the nice looking, very easy to read map that you see in front of you there. Um, but you can also change it to satellite and terrain as well. So satellite removes the easy to read version and essentially just shows you like an actual picture of the map there from taken from space. Google Map is really cool because you can zoom in quite close to any icon or any place on the map there. One of the fun things that I like to do periodically is to go onto Google Maps and find my house. You can zoom in and probably get some pretty decent exposure of your place. Terrain, I find this is actually more useful if I'm going out hiking and whatnot. But if you're just going out for a walk and you're not completely familiar with the route, terrain will show you essentially elevations and whatnot. So if you go in there, you can see if it's going to be high or low elevation and plan your route accordingly based on that. I don't use it too much, but again, it is an option that you have on there. Other things that you can see on here would be based on map details. So you can add transit information. So essentially different transit lines. So in Calgary here, we have the C train. You can get bus stops and whatnot. Traffic, this is actually a really useful one if you're driving around. It will show lines on major routes where depending on the color of the line, it will show you good traffic areas and bad traffic areas. What I mean by that is if the line is green, it means that traffic is flowing steady and there's no issue. If it's yellow or red, then it means that that particular area has slower traffic. And usually how Google gets this information is based on other people using Google Maps. So if a lot of people are slowing down in a particular area, then it uses that information to say that this area is kind of not got great traffic versus another area where people are just generally free flowing. Biking, where it'll actually show you different biking routes along the way. And 3D is one where it will take tall buildings in the area and it'll make them look 3D on your map there. This is kind of a cool feature. It doesn't really change too much, but it can sometimes be neat to see some of the buildings downtown um, scaled in 3D rather than having them 2D like the normal default is. Does anybody have any questions on this part so far? So far, so good? Okay. Um, Now, back on the main screen here, Google Maps also has another feature called Explore Nearby. So to pull this up, essentially you see this little line here. What that means is you can drag it upwards. And what Explore here is essentially, whoop, I like my little icon that lets you swipe up. Anyways, that will show different places around you that might be of interest to you. So it can show you best places to eat. It can show you some places for recreation, some of the trending spots in the area. Uh, it's it's sometimes decent to go into this little section there just so you can get a feel of what's around you. This is also useful if you don't really know where you want to go to eat or if you don't really know what to do on a particular day. You're kind of bored and you want to go out and do something, but you don't really know what. This particular area of Google Maps will help give you ideas. So the next one here that we'll talk about is related to the settings. So for settings on here, that will be accessed by clicking or on iPhone, it'll be by clicking on the little icon in the top right-hand corner. This is it shows a C on here because Coco is signed in when she created the screenshot, but it'll show either a picture or it'll show your the letter of your first name if you're signed in here. On Android, it shows a little bit different. It shows the little three lines at the top right-hand corner, but both do the same thing and will get you to the settings page. So essentially, yeah, Apple versus Android. So when you click on settings, this will pop up here. This screen will pop up here. Now, there's a few things that I want to show you, but the main one that I want to make you aware of is this feature here called offline maps. So what offline maps is essentially is where you can download a particular map or a particular area of Google Maps so that it will show up if you're not connected online. So this can be really useful if you are traveling and you're not connected to Wi-Fi or to data, or if you think you're going to be in an area that doesn't have great cell phone coverage. Typically, what you would want to do is download your home area. So like if you were in Calgary, you download a map of Calgary so that even if you weren't connected online, you would still be able to use Google Maps to see different spots in that area and to get directions. But in addition to downloading your home, you can download other areas too. So I know for myself, I'll actually download the mountains or parts of the mountain anyways, so that if I'm going hiking and I'm not connected to data or to a Wi-Fi connection there, I can still use Google Maps to figure out where I am. Because most phones do have GPS, and regardless of whether you're connected to data or Wi-Fi, GPS will still work as long as you can see the sky. Um, so to do that, click on offline maps and then click on select your own map. Now, typically Google Maps will automatically set your home location and we'll download it there, but you can go in and update that at any time you want. But anyways, for this particular example, you'll go into offline maps and click select your own map. What will then pop up is a screen that looks a little bit like this. So essentially what it's asking you is how big do you want the downloaded area to be? So you can zoom in or zoom out on this area and have the downloaded map be bigger or smaller depending on kind of what you want for your offline map. I know for myself, I keep it fairly large just because it's better to have the information than not. I never want to be in a situation where I've lost my internet connection and I need to download it at that time or I need to access maps at that time. I'd rather have it downloaded ahead of time. So I make my area pretty big. One thing that I will say though is that there's a lot of data that Google saves when you're downloading a map there. So at the bottom, it will give you an estimate of how much space it's going to take up on your phone. This particular example that you see on the screen is going to take up about 40 megabytes of space. So plan accordingly. So if your phone doesn't have a lot of memory left, you may want to make your map smaller. But if you have a phone that's got a fairly decent hard drive or storage, you can make your map quite a bit bigger and not have to worry too much about using the space up there. Once you've picked your area, just click download in the bottom right-hand corner, and then Google Maps will actually automatically download the updates to that map periodically for you so that you don't have to go in and do that. Then once you've done that, back on this offline maps page, it will actually show you that new map that you have on here. So map number one, unfortunately, you can't name it, I don't believe, but the one that we just selected, map number one, about 47 megabytes of space, and it will show you when it expires. So essentially when it will update. Any questions on that part?
What it happens if it says expires August 20th and we do nothing about it?
All that ends up happening is it ends up downloading a new copy of the map.
Oh, it will automatically download
Exactly.
updated maps for you if you don't do anything?
Exactly. So
Okay,
on
thank
that
you.
part, no problem. So how you can change the setting for the map updates is in the top right-hand corner of the offline maps one. There's a little gear, and if you click on that, it will take you to the offline map settings. Here you can change the automatic downloads to on or off. You can also set it so that it downloads maps via Wi-Fi only, or if you're on a cell network as well. You can also edit your home or work area too, so that if you happen to have multiple homes or you don't want it to download a particular area, you can change that on there, change your home setting. Because Google will automatically download a map for your home area, but you can again change where it thinks your home is.
I also have another question in here.
Yeah.
On your screen. It looks like auto download recommended maps. Coco had turned it off, I think. Both of those, and I have both turned on. So what's the difference?
I would leave it turned on. So auto download recommended maps. Recommended maps are like your home. So Google Google will pick two two places that it recommends you download: your home and your work. If
Mm,
they're close together, then it'll probably just make it like lump it together as home. Those are what's recommended by Google. If
okay.
you go to a particular area all the time, it might download that area as well. But usually the home area is quite a large section of the map there. So unless you're commuting like hours every day, it's probably not going to pick multiple maps to download. It'll likely just pick your home as the recommended app.
Yeah, okay. I have the last question.
Hmm.
I have also expires, my map expires February 20th, 2022. And then it added words like unless it's updated, unless updated. So if this one is okay because automatic with mine, automatically update, so I'm okay. But if Coco doesn't have unless updated, Coco has expires August 20th and nothing. I have the date and then I have the words unless updated.
So what that means is when you are up, like essentially it will expand or extend the expiry date quite regularly when it automatically updates, or when you click on these three little bars and or three little dots and click update. So you can download the update for that area. But if you don't actually do anything, if you have automatic updates turned off, what will end up happening is after the expiry date, Google Maps will delete this particular area for offline maps. And the reason why it does that is maps tend to change quite regularly. So they don't want to be in a place where they're giving you out of date information. But if you're automatically updating those maps there, then it's essentially the expiry date will just keep extending on for however long it is from the time that you updated it. It's only if you don't update those maps that it eventually will delete it.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. How do I download the whole Calgary?
Okay, so back on here. So when you click on offline maps again, click
Yeah.
on select your own map.
Yeah.
And then on the next screen will pop up with essentially a map of the area that you're in. You can use your fingers to pinch to zoom out or to zoom in. So just make the area of the map as big or as small as you want, and also to
Okay.
include the area that you want. So you can move it around as well.
Oh, so as soon as I download it, it should be automatic, including all the Calgary.
That's correct. Although what it'll look like as the default is probably just slightly bigger than Calgary. But again, you can make it even bigger than that, or you can make it smaller than that. But once you make it the size that you want, then just click download in the bottom right-hand corner. And then it will automatically download from that point forward if you have the setting turned on.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Were you able to get it, Sue?
Yeah, it's doing it now.
Perfect. It might take a couple seconds to download your map. It's a little bit of space to download it. So depending on your connection speed, it might take some time to download.
Okay. Now it's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ryan.
Hi, Judy.
Ryan, this is Judy. Just now you talk about naming the map. I find that if you click on the three dots, then it will enable something that called rename. So you can change the name of each of the maps. Take example, if you're going to Italy and you're visiting 3 cities, then you can have separate maps for them.
That is a very good point, Judy. Thank you for letting me know. I actually have never renamed my maps, so that's a good tip, and especially
I just play with it, so.
No, that's great, and actually that's a good point. When you're traveling, if you're going to multiple areas, it's a good idea to rename it depending on where you're going, just so you know which maps you've downloaded and which ones you still need to get. All right, so next I'm going to show you how to, if we don't have any other questions with regards to offline maps, I'm going to show you how to use the navigation feature.
Hi, Ryan.
Yeah, Aline.
Before you go anywhere else, could I ask a question? When you first turn on the maps, you talk about location history. I did not see that on my Android. Location history, where we can find location history.
So where that will be, actually, I'm going to go back a couple of screens because it'll be on. So ignore where the red line or red circle is on here. So on your settings page here, there is a setting on here called your timeline. This is actually location
Oh,
history.
yeah,
Um,
your timeline, yes.
So what will be shown under there, and unfortunately I don't have a picture of this, but what it'll show you is if you've got, or if you've given Google Maps permission to track your location, it will show you day by day, like a history of where you've traveled, and it'll try to guess the different places that you've stopped at. So this can sometimes be useful if you're trying to remember where you were on a particular day. You can actually go into this your timeline section, and it will show you generally where in the city you are. This is dependent on a couple of things. So one is that Google Maps has access to your location. Another is it's trying to essentially guess where you were. So it might come up with a name of a particular, let's just say you went to a restaurant. It'll try to guess the name of the restaurant that you were at, but you might have been to a restaurant that was next door to the one that it guessed. It's based on GPS, so it's not 100% accurate, but you can change like the different settings in your timeline based on what you want in your privacy settings and whatnot. If it also comes up with a guess of where you were, like a location, but you were at a different location, you can click on that and change it to something else too.
Okay, when I click on it, it's got explore your timeline, turn on location history, and then on the bottom there is the turn on key. So if I had this turn on, then I will be able to see the location history. Is that correct?
That's correct, exactly. Yeah. So if you
you.
click that on, it'll show you day by day. So you can go. It'll show you a map where with a line of all the different places that you've gone,
Yeah.
kind of like transit directions or just directions on the map.
Yeah.
But if you where you have it right now is you don't have it turned on. That's why it's not showing you anything.
So in other words, if you have that turned on, that means they're tracking you. They know you where you have been and what you have done.
Pretty much. I know I've got mine turned on, but I think Google Maps is probably pretty bored with me. I don't travel around too much, not during COVID anyways. So I don't think it's too exciting for me.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how to use the navigation feature with Google Maps. So back on the main screen, at the top here is the search bar. So for this example, we're going to try searching for the Central Library. So at the top here, once you start typing in this case, Central Library, it will pop up with a bunch of potential recommendations for what you're searching for. Now, Google Maps does a pretty good job of trying to get as close to where you're typing as possible. If you were to type in just library, it would also come up with a whole bunch of different listings for libraries within Calgary, not just the Central Library. So in here, you can see, and I'll actually just explain what the icons mean here. If you see an icon that looks like this, where it has the little tag on it, then that means that it's actually found a particular location. So in this case, the Central Library located at 3rd Street Southeast. If you see a little magnifying glass, what that's doing is it's essentially where you're searching for things that sound like Central Library, not necessarily something that is exactly named Central Library. So where this might make a little bit more sense is if you were talking, or if you were searching for, let's say you wanted to put your dog into daycare. So there was a place called Dog Daycare, and you were also searching for dog daycares. So like a lot of different dog daycares. If you typed in dog daycare up at the top here, one of the options would be dog daycare because that's the name of a business. But then another option would be dog daycares underneath it, where it's searching for things that have that category of business. Hopefully that makes sense, but essentially the difference is searching for things that sound like Central Library versus searching for a business that is called Central Library. That's what the icon there. So let me show you what it will look like after that. So once you click, so on the previous screen here, let's say we clicked Central Library. So this one here, the second one. What's going to show up on the next screen here is a bunch of bookings that look very similar to the name Central Library. In this case, we're in Calgary, and there's a place actually called Central Library. So that's going to be the first one on the list here, because Google Maps will always try to find you the results that are as close to what you're searching for as possible, as close to the name as what as it can get there. But it's also going to provide you with results that have a similarity to Central Library. So again, Louise Riley Library has the name Riley or library in it. So that's why that's popped up. Nose Hill Library, same sort of thing. Memorial Park Library, same sort of thing. And it's also going to base the results by where you are. So it's going to try to find results for you that are as close to you as possible, that are as close to the name as possible. So what you're going to see on here, and that's okay, because you can actually filter it at the top here and change it. So if the results that you see on here are not what you're looking for, or if you're trying to get a little bit more detail on it, you can actually filter that. So up here, you can sort by, and you can do it by a whole bunch of different things. So distance from you, you can do it by relevance, so as close to this name as possible. You can sort by, I think you can do it alphabetically. You can also choose which ones will show up based on whether they're open or not, based on whether you've visited them or not. So again, the visited versus not visited, that will be based on your location history. So if you're using that timeline feature that we were just talking about before, Google Maps will assume if you've been to a business or not. So you can actually search for businesses based on whether you visited them or not. So that can be useful if you're trying to get to the same place that you were in before. Once you actually type it in though, down near the bottom here is going to be the different results. So you're going to see a bit of information for each of the results there that can be useful for you. The stars here are going to be the rating that other people have given to that particular business. In this case, the Central Library, it's rated 4.5 stars out of 5 based on 533 reviews. So very, very high. Central Library is a really big place in Calgary, so there's a lot of reviews for that one. But if you go to a business that's maybe not so big, or if it's something that just recently opened up, you might not have any reviews, or it might just be a few reviews. Like for example, the Louise Riley Library only has 43 reviews, whereas Nose Hill Library has 80 and Memorial Park Library has 57. So again, it depends on the popularity of the place, how long it's been around for and whatnot. Underneath that is the address for it. So in this case, 800 3rd Street Southeast in Calgary here. And then the hours of business. So if you click on it itself, or if you click on the Central Library, it'll bring up more details on that particular business. But what it'll show you on this screen here is just the status, whether it's open or closed currently, and at what time does the business close. So you can see that when this screenshot was taken, the Central Library was open, and that it was going to be closing at 8 p.m. that day. The other thing that you might see is timeline history. So if you have turned on that feature for timeline, then it will actually show you on here if you visited the business or not. So in this case, Coco had visited the Central Library 2 days ago when she had taken this screenshot. Whereas the Louise Riley Library, she hasn't visited at all, and it doesn't actually show anything on here. Finally, on the right-hand side is usually 2 buttons. There might sometimes be a 3rd button to go visit the website, but usually it'll be 2 buttons. One will be the little telephone button. So if you want to call the business, you can click on that to get quick access to phoning them. And then beside that is another little arrow, and this is for directions. So that will give you directions on how to get to the library. So if you click on one of the results, so for instance, let's click on Central Library. So if I click on just in the middle of this result here, what will end up popping up is details specifically on the Central Library. So what you can see on here is a few things. You can see, again, the rating. Depending on how big the location is, it might also have information on how busy it is. A lot of grocery stores will have this. So it could be, it could say very busy like the Central Library did on this particular time, or it could say it's quiet, or it's moderate or whatnot. But that can be useful if you're trying to plan out a trip and you want to avoid people. It will also show you a more detailed version of the address, a more detailed version of the hours. This little little arrow here next to the hours. You can click on that and see the hours for different days. It will show you the telephone number and it will show you the website as well. Now, a lot of this information that you see on Google Maps is based on people entering in the information. So again, if it's a location that is fairly new, so if it's a business that just recently opened up, until that business either puts in this information or other people put that information in, it might not show up. But if you're looking at like a big location or a location that's been around for a while, like the Central Library, usually it will have complete and full information on here, which is really useful in order to be able to find out more about them. Now, earlier I mentioned how you can save locations on your maps so that if you want to get to them really quickly, you don't have to search for them each time. So on the box here, if you click the save button, it will add a little pin to your map, and will also add the listing under your saved category on the main screen. Now, let's say we wanted to get directions to the Central Library. So what we can do is we could either click the directions button, which will pop up another screen that will ask you where are you starting from, and we'll give you the Central Library as the destination. Or you can click this start button. And the difference between the two is start will actually just give you directions from where you are right now. So Google Maps will use your location, and then it will take your location as the starting point and put the Central Library as the end point. So it'll start giving you directions right away. Whereas directions will first pop up with a where are you starting from and where are you going to page. So in this case, I'm going to click on directions, this button here. And in order to, what it's going to pop up with next is a page that looks a little bit like this. I'm sorry, there's a lot of pictures on this page here, so it's a little bit messy, but I'll explain what each part actually is there. So at the top, it's going to ask you where are you starting from and where are you going. So the destination will, if you click on it from from the previous page. So for example, if you're on the Central Library page here and you click on directions, then the destination should be where you clicked on. So that should be in this case the Central Library, but you can change that if you wanted to go somewhere else. The starting point, you can type in any location you want, and you can also tell Google that you just want to start from where you are. Down below that is the different modes of transportation. So it's going to ask you, how are you actually getting there? Now, depending on whether you're driving, whether you're taking public transit, whether you're walking, and I like the little hitchhiking guy at the side here. I don't know who would actually use that one, but the three main ones would be driving, transit, and walking. And for this one, I think actually this might be taxi, but you can choose which way you want to get there. And this is important because Google Maps will give you a different route depending on how you're getting there. For instance, walking, it will give you a route that probably cuts through different places. It's a route that you wouldn't be able to take if you were driving usually. Same with public transit, it will tell you based on which train to get on, which bus to get on, and then car will be based on which roads you need to take. Now, once you actually click on start, and I don't, okay, so in this case, the option that was selected was based on public transit. So it would take 14 minutes from the Center Street Bridge to Central Library, or it'll tell you an estimated time of getting there based on where you are. So underneath that is going to be the different routes. So there is going to be the recommended route that Google tells you. And then below that is potentially going to be other routes that you can use to get there. So in this case, if we were to click on this recommended route, the first one there, the next screen that would pop up would essentially be a map of where you need to walk to get onto the bus, which bus you need to take, where that bus will take you, and then where you need to get off that bus. So it's very useful for telling you exactly where you need to go and how long each section will take. So once you do that, it will show you a map that looks like this. Now, in this example picture, it's actually showing you based on you taking the car. So from this location to get to the Central Library, it's going to take about 14 minutes, and it shows you the different roads that you need to take to get there. Once you're ready, you can click on start at the bottom right-hand corner here, or you can swipe up and it will actually show you a breakdown of the different places that you need to take in order to get there. So what I mean by a breakdown is it will show you essentially directions that are like turn left on 14th Street, go 500 meters, then turn right on 17th Avenue. Those type of directions there. Where's my picture? So once you do click start, then a map will pop up like this. And it will have an arrow in the middle of the screen, and that arrow will usually be pointed in the direction that you're facing. So that makes it easy for you to determine which way you have to go, because the arrow will always be pointed in the way that you're facing. So from there, it will show a blue line, and as you're driving or as you're taking the bus or as you're walking, that blue line will vanish behind you and it'll appear in front of you so that you can tell exactly where you need to go. If you need to have an audio guide, so where Google Maps will actually talk to you and tell you where you need to go, you can turn on the little speaker here and it will give you prompts periodically on where you need to turn and whatnot. If you happen to be taking a route and there's a traffic accident or the traffic's particularly bad, you can actually click this alternate route on the bottom here, and Google Maps will reroute you to a different way to get to the location that you want. So say, for instance, the road you are, somebody got into an accident and you need to find a different way to get there. You can click on this alternate route button and it should take you on different roads if those roads are available. Below that is exit, and if you click on exit, it will close the navigation screen. Any
Can I
questions?
ask a couple questions?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, on mine right now, I don't have the speaker button.
What do you see on yours? Just the magnifying glass, this one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you using Android or iPhone?
Android.
Android? Let me actually just pull out my phone here. I just want to see if the Android one will show in a different location. I think that it might be a setting you can change, but give me 1 second and I'll let you know. So Google Maps.
You don't put the starting. Starting have a show the
Are you navigating at this place? Like, have you actually put in an address that you're traveling to?
Yeah, I just put Central Library, exactly like, like that's what my phone.
Oh, see at the bottom where it says start?
Okay.
Click on that.
Ah, sure. Okay, that's good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason why it didn't
I have
show you
a
the reason why it didn't show you that yet is it'll only give you guided navigation when you're actually traveling. So you have to have clicked the start button first. Otherwise, it won't give you that little microphone button. Or
Okay.
sorry, yeah, speaker button.
So I have one more question.
Of course. But now we're getting to the Central Library. I can hear it.
Okay. Anyway, earlier you talking about the filter part, and on mine doesn't show that, like that on. Remember you say you can use the filter?
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
So
If you don't have the timeline turned on, you will not get the filter.
What light? Yeah. Oh,
you're talking about like this, right?
yeah, I don't have that bar.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you type in, so from the main screen, if you type in, say, Central Library, for instance, underneath it, does it show up with different filter options? I'm just going to actually go into mine and type in Central Library as well. So just type in Central Library and hit enter.
Yeah. Ah, okay.
Do you see it at that? Do you see it now?
Yeah, I see it now.
Perfect. Yeah, so on mine, you can't really see well, but I just typed in Central Library and hit enter, and the that filter section should be just below it.
Okay. Yeah, because it's different. When I have the list, then I don't have that. When I type in that, and that's what I have.
So
I do have that now.
I'm actually just going, yeah. So I think I understand why it doesn't show like that. So when you have it like this and you're just typing in, like you have nothing displayed here, when you type in central library, so before you hit enter, oops, central library.
Some phone, some difference.
Yeah, okay.
So when you type in just central library, but you haven't hit enter yet, it's going to come up with a list of different places that sound like central library. What you need to do is you need to hit the search bar first. So this blue search bar there.
Oh.
Once you do that,
Okay,
then it will pop up with the list and the filter.
okay. So I have one more question.
Yeah.
So I used to go,
Cairn Way Northeast, then turn right
Oh.
onto Arundel Cairn Road
Ju-
Northeast.
just click exit on your navigation, and then it should get you out of that.
that's not mine. Okay. So
Okay.
anyway, my question is, I used to Google Map, like somewhere when I do traveling.
Yeah.
So I have the location, I have to look for the, the hotel. So I walk in, like after I get off the transportation, the train. And I keep walking, and some reason I didn't get me to it, but they showed me on the map. And I think it's because you're facing north or south, or because the street. So, like how I make it, like I follow the map and I follow the line, but I never get to where I want to go.
um, so one thing I'll say about Google Maps, and this is actually going to be the same for Apple Maps as well, is that they are always trying to improve the locations that they have on it. So sometimes, depending on the city that you're in, the information that they can have might be a little out of date. They do try to update it quite regularly, but depending on whether you're in a big city or a small place, it's usually going to be okay, but you can sometimes get a situation where it doesn't give you the right address or the right directions. But I think I understand what you're talking about, where it's like it doesn't show you based on which direction you're pointed. So what you can do for that is, say you're navigating, so you're on the direction page there, you're now going to your destination. See this little compass button here? That button there will change it so that the map is either pointing north or is pointing in the direction that you are facing. So right now, when the compass is kind of a little bit skewed like this, this is pointing in the direction that you're facing. If you were to tap that, the map would actually change so that it would be pointing north, and then the line would show just like how a normal map would show, where north is north, it's the top of the screen, and it might be a little bit harder for you to navigate that way. So what I would say is, if it is showing the map pointed north and it's not moving when you move, click this little compass button here, and then it should change it so that the map will point in the direction that you are facing. That will make it easier for you to actually navigate to your destination.
But I don't have this in here. I don't have the compass on my thing.
This might be because you're not actually in a navigation screen. Let me share my screen and then on my phone, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm just gonna actually type in central library. I'm just gonna get to it on mine, and then I'll share my screen.
Me too. I haven't. It's just a free icon.
Yeah. I don't know if I can do this without actually being in that area, but
Head north on 12th Street Southwest toward 14th Avenue Southwest.
okay, so on here you can see that I've got directions in front of you there. So this little compass in the top right hand corner there, if you click on that, it will.
But I don't have that, sorry.
Oh, this doesn't show up at all?
No.
Okay, so when you are, so again, say we're going to the central library, so that's what I have pulled up before. If you click this little start button, this will start your direction right away. So click on that, and what will
Head
happen?
north on 12th Street Southwest toward 14th Avenue Southwest.
So it will then pop up with the directions from where you are currently to get to the central library. Um,